Details: Biden is first U.S. president to mark Indigenous Peoples Day. Details: In Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation, Biden says he will commit to respecting indigenous sovereignty and human rights. Joe Biden has become the first United States president to formally mark Indigenous Peoples Day, affirming his administration's commitment to upholding tribal sovereignty and respecting human rights. In a proclamation on Friday, Biden said Indigenous Peoples Day would be marked on October 11, the same day Columbus Day is observed. Today, we recognize Indigenous peoples' resilience and strength, as well as the immeasurable positive impact that they have made on every aspect of American society. Biden's statement reads, "We also recommit to supporting a new, brighter future of promise and equity for tribal nations, a future grounded in tribal sovereignty and respect for the human rights of indigenous people in the Americas and around the world." Several statues of Christopher Columbus, the Italian navigator whose Spanish-funded expeditions from the 1490s onward opened the way for the European conquest of the Americans, have been removed from U.S. cities in recent years amid a reckoning with his legacy. Statues of Christopher Columbus have been removed in various countries amid the reckoning with the Italian explorer's impact on indigenous people. That comes amid a global push to take down statues and monuments to historical figures involved in colonialism and other abuses, including slavery. Such monuments have been toppled by protesters or removed in Canada, Mexico, and United Kingdom, among other places. Back in the US, many Italian Americans view Columbus Day as a celebration of their heritage, while indigenous people have called for the day to be abolished and for an honest assessment of the harms the Italian explorer caused for their communities. As of last year, 14 United States and more than 130 cities were observing Indigenous Peoples Day across the country. The Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian said it in a blog. Biden also issued a proclamation on Friday for the Columbus Day, praising the role of Italian Americans in U.S. society, while also referencing the violence and harm Columbus and other explorers of the age brought about on the Americans. Today, we also acknowledge the painful history of wrongs and atrocities that many European explorers inflicted on tribal nations and indigenous communities, Biden wrote. It is a measure of our greatness as a nation that we do not seek to bury these same shameful episodes of our past, that will face them honestly. We bring them to the light, and we do all we can to address them. The statements mark a sharp contrast from Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, who in his Columbus Day proclamation last year defended Columbus from what he said were radical activists seeking to undermine the explorer's legacy. Earlier this year, Biden appointed to the post of Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, a member of the Laguna Pueblo tribe and the first indigenous person to head a cabinet agency in U.S. history. Indigenous advocates have welcomed some steps taken by the Biden administration to roll back some of Trump's policies that they have feared would impact their rights and harm their way of life, such as oil and gas drilling leases in an Arctic refuge. On Thursday, Biden announced he would restore the boundaries of 3 U.S. nation reserves, known as national monuments, that were reduced in size by Trump to allow commercial activity. The restoration will protect more than 1.3 million hectares, 3.2 million acres in southern Utah, known as the Bears Years, and Grand Staircase Escalade National Monument, as well as the nearly 8,000 square kilometer, 3,100 square miles, Northeast Canyons and Seamount Marine National Monument in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of New England. By taking this action, President Biden will be recognizing the deep and enduring ancestral and cultural connections that tribes have to this landscape and taking a step towards honoring its commitment to indigenous people by acknowledging their original place in this country that is now our shared home, the Bears Intertribal Coalition said in a statement. Biden is the first U.S. president to mark Indigenous Peoples Day. The Indigenous Peoples Day was first marked by the U.S. president. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, as we all know, they are the ones agitating for the Southeast. But Joe Biden, he has become the first United States president to formally mark Indigenous People Day, affirming his administration's commitment to upholding tribal sovereignty and respecting human rights. Joe Biden said Indigenous Peoples Day will be marked on October 11, the same day Columbus Day is observed. We recognize Indigenous peoples' resilience and strength, as well as the immeasurable positive impact that they have made on every aspect of American society. We also recommit to supporting a new, brighter future of promise and equity for tribal nations, a future grounded in tribal sovereignty and respect for the human rights of indigenous people in the Americas and around the world. Biden is the first president to mark the Indigenous Peoples Day. The contribution that indigenous people have made through the history in public service, entrepreneurship, scholarship, the arts, and countless other fields are integral to our nation, our culture, and our society. Today, we acknowledge the significant sacrifice made by native peoples to this country and recognize their many ongoing contributions to our nation. Biden also marked a change of course from previous administration in his proclamation marking Columbus Day, which honors the explorer Christopher Columbus. Joe Biden is the first US president to celebrate the Indigenous Peoples Day and is saying that the Indigenous People Day will hold every October 11. Thank you, my listeners, for listening. Do have a great day and God bless you all.